Hey folks, thank you for dropping in on this 5-part series about why video games are going to be the key, or one of the keys, to the global awakening that's happening right now. By the way, I want to pause here for a moment and say I hate the word awakening. Like, I use it because people know what I'm talking about, but I hate it. Part of the reason I hate it is because sleep is so important, and when we talk about awakening, it's like, I don't want to be asleep. It's like it eschews the value in what we experience pre-awakening, and it eschews the value in what we experience in sort of dimmer states of consciousness, like sleep, which obviously occurs for a reason. So I hate the word awakening, but I'm going to use it. Anyway, part 1 was about how video games already extend a person's sense of identity to include the character and stretch their sense of identity so that they experience themselves to be something that they don't usually experience themselves to be. Part 2 is about practice. So we are what we practice. So this is a great expression in neuroscience. I'm sure all of you, or many of you, know it. It goes like this. Neurons that fire together, wire together. And what is captured in this statement is, what we practice today, we become tomorrow. Which is why, if you're trying to change a habit, the most important action you can take is to change the way to change your behavior right now. Because by changing your behavior right now, you make it easier to change your behavior tomorrow. And then you make it easier to change your behavior the day after this. This is how I've been trying to take on a yoga practice for myself for years. And then finally I've found myself in the new habit of it. And the way I did it was just fucking go to yoga. And now it's easy to go to yoga, whereas it was like pulling teeth from me before. So we know this in our spiritual practices, in our physical practices, anything in our life that we call a practice. You know, you have a practice of relationship, which means how you relate to your significant other or significant others, or just the people you love in your life, you know. Anything that extends your intention, you have to have a practice of it, which means acting it out. And as you act it out, it becomes easier to be the way that you want to be. And likewise, the opposite happens. As you act out being a, selfish dick, it's just easier to be a selfish dick tomorrow. So what are we practicing? I mean, obviously in a video game, what are you practicing in a video game? I think most of our video games have us practicing some version of self-centrism, some version of manipulation, some version of domination. And these things are not bad in and of themselves, it's tempting to say, bad domination. But, looking at the integral spiral, these are really, really healthy expressions of, say, red level consciousness. And it's really important because that level of consciousness doesn't disappear. It's really important to keep practicing that. Otherwise, it just disappears in the shadows. So I'm not bashing this quality about video games. I play Civilization, which is a game that has me practice economizing and balancing risk and reward, and I find that enriching in some ways. And in other ways, it wheedles its way into my consciousness, and if I'm not careful about how I play that game, I'll begin to see my whole life as kind of an economic affair, and then everything is just dead and uninteresting, and that's not how I want to live. So, outside of video games, what are the things we practice? Think about it for a second. What do you practice in your daily life? And then is that what you want to be practicing? Well, so obviously a video game, if it's designed with practice in mind, can help you practice being something that you want to practice being. You can have a video game that helps you practice compassion, or curiosity, or creativity, or rest. That's a really good one, and something we're missing a lot of in this culture. Rest. We need to practice rest. Rest doesn't just come naturally to us. And video games are, in their nature, not really geared towards helping us practice rest. They're geared towards activating us, but can can a design help you practice activating deeper levels of rest? Can a video game help you practice forgetting that which doesn't serve you anymore and remembering something that does? The answer to all of these is yes, absolutely. But the more interesting question then becomes how. A game is really just a set of rules. I've said this in the previous video, and I think early on in this video, but I want to reiterate it again and again because it's important. A game is a set of rules, and you fill up the negative space implied by that set of rules, and that is who you become when you play the game. So when you meet those rules, there's an action that is invited from you. And what are you practicing being when you practice that action? So that's reason number 2 out of 5 for why gaming is one of the keys for waking humanity up. I'm going to go into reason number 3 next week, and that is about technology. I really want to hear your comments and questions, so please go ahead and drop something in the comments box here, and I'll try to get to it in time for the video next week. Thank you very much for tuning in.